shifters, entrepreneurs on the move, with your host, Amanda Barr, bringing you power-packed 15-minute conversations with entrepreneurs who share their stories of shifting in life and business to keep on the move.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Amanda Barr. And wow, do we have an incredible guest for you today. I've got August Caimi with Caimi Law Corporation, and he represents small and medium-sized businesses and certain individuals in lawsuits and disputes. He has graduated from Harvard College, AB cum laude, and a JD from Boston University, and a Los Angeles Supreme Court Judge Pro Tem, and is a former General Counsel of the Hilton Hotels Corporation Worldwide. He was also a bouncer at the world-famous Stone Pony nightclub in Ashbury Park, a testimony to his chaos management skills and part of his journey to become your legal bodyguard. Welcome to the show, August.
Thank you. I'm glad to join in, and I'm just stunned by the enthusiasm with which you introduced me. Thank you for that kind introduction, Amanda.
You're so welcome, and I am definitely looking forward to today and diving into all that you have done in your journey. So maybe you can take us through that. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you first became interested in becoming a lawyer.
You know, it's funny. I'm one of the lucky ones who has known I wanted to be a lawyer all my life. I used to watch a great old lawyer show called Perry Mason. Are you familiar with that one?
I am not, but
you're not. See, that shows you what generation we're in, Amanda. But Perry Mason, and Perry Mason was a favorite of my grandmother. I'm of a Sicilian heritage, and my grandmother was a wonderful, smallish Sicilian lady, and she loved watching Perry Mason. And we'd sit in the breakfast room. He'd be making fresh pasta, and we'd be watching Perry Mason on a little, maybe 12-inch black and white television. And from that kind of experience, I knew I wanted to be an attorney.
How did you kind of venture out and say, I want to do this for myself?
The real key to venturing out on your own, I think, is seeing the reality. Employers generally, I think, create a somewhat unreal environment for employees. And the goal of that is to keep the employees employed, making money for the employer. But the reality is completely different. For example, I was a highly recruited attorney coming out of Boston. We flew all over the country, various law firms who wanted us to be part of their organizations. And I joined a law firm out here in Los Angeles that had been established in 1928, a downtown, very venerable old law firm, traditional law firm. Yeah. And I learned my profession there, but I also saw the huge inefficiencies. And so, when I became a partner, I had been able to develop some of my own clientele, which included some of the casinos in Las Vegas at the time, Circus, the Flamingo, etc. I did a lot of jurisdictional work for them, and that was the springboard for me to say, hey, why am I doing this inefficient work for this big organization instead of doing it efficiently in my own organization? And just to show you, Amanda, how far your imagination can go in this unrealistic employee world, I remember thinking to myself, oh gosh, I can't leave this law firm. I have this great parking space downstairs. And, you would think that's ridiculous. Sitting here on this podcast, you say that's ridiculous. People think that way. It's like there's all these impediments, right? All these impediments to the reality. And the reality is if you just go out on your own, take the plunge, you're going to be way better for it. And, that's what happened to me. I've been grateful for it ever since.
Yeah. Some of the shifts you've gone through, just kind of taking that stride and building your own practice.
For a person who has some spirit and character and some entrepreneurship, the shifts come naturally because you're constantly improving, naturally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like you have to sit down and say, oh gosh, it would be so much more efficient if I just did this a certain way. It just happens. You say, oh, look, I mean, this is the way to do it, not that. I remember being among the first in town to have, and again, this is going to be giving away my age, a portable fax machine. So I had a fax machine in a briefcase. This is when fax was brand new. They were actually called Dexes before they were. And I put it in a briefcase, and there were no cell phones then. There was just regular landlines. So I had the thing that looks like an earphone. So you have two holes. One is for the microphone and one is for the ear, as if you were holding a phone up here. And you would take the connection from the fax machine, put it in the two holes, dial the phone number back to the firm, and I could be making changes on agreements in real time, which back then was unheard of. You had to have your secretary to type up. So, that's one example of things that just happen naturally, organically. But you would probably agree, Amanda, you have to let it happen. You have to give it a chance. If you don't give it a chance and take a swing at that crazy idea of putting a fax machine in a briefcase, you're going to stay an employee, and you're going to, sort of be every day wondering where your next meal has come from. It's funny. I've met a lot of people. I don't mean to go on and on about this, but I think it's part of your question. I've met a lot of people who say to me, I'm an employee, and I feel so secure. I have a regular job where, August, how can you stand all the risk? Because you have to be getting customers, getting clients, having relationships with them, also getting the work done, getting the billing done, getting all the various things you need to do. It seems like such a big risk. And the reality is, over the course of my life, the biggest security that I've ever had has been having multiple clients. Being an employee was incredibly insecure. They could fire you at any time for whatever reason they want. And having one client is also insecure because that client, for some reason, who knows what, becomes dissatisfied and boom, he's gone. But the entrepreneur with multiple customers can provide great service that's really efficient. And if somebody happens to move away, well, that's just, that was X percent of your business and you need to replace that X percent, but you have the rest of it there.
Yeah. Keeping the control, the ball in your hands kind of mentality, and what do you have control of? I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure. Yeah. I like your analogy of keeping control. It seems less controlled, right? It seems like you're going to lose your parking space, right? But the reality is, no, it's much more controlled. You have 10 parking spaces, right?
I hope you have a good parking space now. I mean, in your journey.
Thanks. Well, yeah. With COVID, there's not all that much parking going on. So.
Right. I know. You got the best parking right at home. Well, I would love to dive in just because of the world you live in, and there's things changing, and you work in the legal space, and I'm sure with this COVID stuff is happening. So is there anything that's like super interesting on the legal side, maybe important for entrepreneurs to know about at this time or any time? Maybe it's a timeless case that something you could share.
Sure thing. Like RTB, your business, your profession, Raise the Bar. We are an international company, law firm. So I've litigated cases in Hong Kong, Mexico City, different places in Europe, etc., particularly when I was senior litigation counsel for Hilton Hotels Corporation Worldwide. Every single lawsuit involving Hilton Hotels was my responsibility.
Wow.
So, yeah, our experience is broad. Some current cases that some of your listeners might be interested in involve COVID. And I thought I would take 1 minute to chat about that.
That'd be awesome.
COVID. Yeah, okay, great. COVID is often used these days as a reason to break a deal. So, as you know, we handle all sorts of, excuse me, all sorts of business disputes, real estate disputes, broker disputes, financing, partners disputes, partnership disputes, anything that involves money and contracts and deals that result in a dispute or a problem is what we handle. And on both sides of the coin, people are actually using COVID as something called force majeure, which is just French for major force, right? As something that is an act of God, something that is unavoidable that allows me to get out of my deal. So we've become quite expert in this area recently, because you can imagine all these folks have all these different kinds of contracts, right? I mean, investment contracts, promissory notes, leases, real estate purchase and sale agreements, et cetera, et cetera. And COVID changes everything. So anybody who wants to sort of renegotiate what their contract deal was, given the new circumstances, uses it. So I would pass that on to your listeners. And then perhaps a little more on the perhaps more interesting as opposed to legal. I was the attorney responsible for the trial involving the tailhook litigation, which some of your listeners may remember about 15 years ago, maybe, geez, time goes fast, maybe more. A young female helicopter pilot went to a big party called Tailhook in Las Vegas. And she was, the party was at Hilton Hotels, the Hilton Hotel off the Strip, the Las Vegas Hilton, and she was groped at the party. Now, I defended Hilton Hotels Corporation. And at this party, it was known that these were a bunch of drunken sailors just home from the Persian Gulf. This was not, nobody was in dress whites, okay? This was on the third floor where the swimming pool was. Everyone was drinking huge volumes of alcohol, and all sorts of salacious material was going on. There were blue movies in various hotel rooms and, all kinds of crazy stuff like that. But she made a great case that, she had a right to be at that party without being groped. And it resulted, that case resulted in everyone in the chain of command going up from her helicopter pilot all the way to the commander, the Secretary of the Navy, which is, on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Every single person in that chain of command was fired. So it was, it was a great learning experience, a very high profile case, and we learned a lot from handling it.
And I'm sure you've got many, many more in helping people in their businesses in all different ways, it sounds like. And I'm actually interested because you shared some on the lawyer side, but you also, I saw that you were a court temporary judge. Tell me more about that, and how did you get started in that from being an attorney going to a judge? How does that work?
Sure. I am an attorney. I run my own law firm. The idea of being a temporary judge was brought to me by another judge who respected my work. And you go through a process that involves some screening and testing, and you learn some things. And I volunteer my time. I consider it a service to the community. And when they need help, if a judge is sick or they're getting too many, they've got too much work to do under a time influence or something, a time deadline, they contact me, and I go in and I can help out as a temporary judge. And I thought it was going to be, just something that was a help to them and, a service to the community. But it turned out to be a terrific thing. I got to know a lot of the judges personally. They got to know me personally. So when I go in and I'm appearing before these judges, there's nothing improper, but they know when I speak, I'm saying something that's true, And I also see the litigation process from the decision maker's eyes, which a lot of attorneys don't have the benefit of. So when I'm representing a client, I can really focus on some of the right things because I know what it's like to be a judge.
That's awesome. I mean, it's so fascinating. I've had the pleasure of talking to judges and just kind of seeing what information I can kind of glean from their role and the role they play, but to play both and to know how they work, it's fascinating. And in that, I mean, I would love to dive into kind of that, the last one, the Legal Bodyguard. This is how I remember you. I think it's one of the best marketing. I know it just seems natural for you, but definitely a way to market and remember you, the Legal Bodyguard. And you even have the website, legalbodyguard.com, which is incredible that you got that. You must have got it a while back. But tell us about this. How did this even come about? Because it does feel like it's just you, but obviously it had to start somewhere.
Sure thing. And, it kind of reminds me of some of the things you guys are doing at RTB, Amanda, because you have a broad approach to the services you provide your clients. It's kind of an all-inclusive environment. And I decided that, we were in the same situation. I originally came up with the idea, but it was fostered by a dear friend of mine. And he knew that I represented MMA cage fighters and also some MMA cage fighter promoters. So for your listeners that might be familiar with the UFC, right? Those guys that are in that black cage. So I represented a number of those guys, Vlad, the janitor, Matyushenko, Andre, the pit bull, Arlovsky, et cetera, et cetera. And also the promoters, the people who are contracting with these folks to do those fights. And we also, to put it bluntly, can be very, very tough in our practice. We are not like letter writer type of attorneys. We sue people, we defend people, we go into the court system and get court orders, and we win. We're not soft. And so the idea of tying into the Legal Bodyguard made a lot of sense. The third thing was, that I actually trained physically in the ring with some of those cage fighters.
Wow.
I hasten to say that it was a training situation. Like, I paid money to be part of the gym, or in cases where I represented the guys, they would help me for nothing, and I trained with them. And so I was getting hit and kicked and stuff like that, but it was all under a very controlled situation,
Right.
And then the last thing is, the last piece of this puzzle, as you alluded to earlier, was that I was in fact a bouncer at the Stone Pony in Asbury Park, New Jersey, which is made famous by Bruce Springsteen, Clarence Clemens, and the boys, where they as one of their home clubs when they were coming up in North Jersey. I played guitar while Clarence Clemens, believe it or not, he plays guitar as well as a sax. We played together at 3 o'clock in the morning, me and Julio down by the schoolyard, as I recall. And, lots of other Jersey bands came through there, Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes, Lance Gunner, a lot of bands that were later successful. So as a bouncer there, we were dealing with people that were on every kind of drug, every kind of weapon, every kind of problem you can imagine. And I'll share with you, Amanda, as a smart woman coming through in your career, the women were as bad as the men.
Got some tough cookies on all sides.
There were some tough gals that you had to deal with, and of course, trying to manage a woman's conduct is even worse than trying to manage a man's conduct so much. So with all those factors, we, with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, came up with this yourlegalbodyguard.com. And you can find out all about us there. And obviously, if any of your clients have questions or comments, they can get in touch with you, and we'd be happy to take a phone call because we have such a great relationship with Raise the Bar and your organization.
Oh, I would love that. I would love to see how we can help some businesses and definitely make sure that you are taking them through and protecting them and being their bodyguard through it all. Before we go, though, I always love to ask that last question, and it's what would you want to share with our audience, a nugget or something that has kept you moving forward? Because wow, you've been in the cage, you've been doing all kinds of different things, but in your business and what you love and what you're doing and helping businesses, what's kept you moving forward?
Well, I'm going to say the same thing to your listeners that I say to my kids. And the answer to that is show up. Just show up. Showing up is 90% of the battle. Show up at the gym where the MMA guys train. Show up going out on your own and starting your own business. Show up at potential client organizational meetings, and even if you don't know a soul, and just kind of wait until somebody shakes your hand. Showing up has been a terrific, simple nugget that helped us move forward and be successful.
Love it. I mean, it's such great advice, and it's not so mind-boggling. You just got to do it.
Right.
Just go, show up, be a part of it. August, it's been such a pleasure. For those listening, yourlegalbodyguard.com, right? Yourlegalbodyguard.com. And we'll put the links in the description so you can connect with them directly or come through us, and we'll get you connected. Either way, hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much, August, for being on the show. Such a pleasure.
I enjoyed it too. I think you're terrific, and I think the work you guys do is phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to have a long relationship with you.
Thank you so much for those kind words, and we're cheering you on. And for all those listening today, keep on the move.
We're on the move.
We hope you enjoyed the episode today. We appreciate each one of you for listening and hope you left inspired and motivated to keep on the move. If you think this episode might help or inspire someone else, please share. Don't forget to subscribe and keep in the loop to hear more incredible stories of entrepreneurs like yourself on the move. Thank you for our supporters, RTB Capital Group, Financial Powerhouse, Callcast, and Power Podcasting. Now, get out there and keep on the move.